Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well today. Today I want to talk about some tools that I use to track my finances and that I find others also use as they track their finances, preparing for entering retirement, early retirement, or financial independence. So I'm just going to talk about a few of these tools. I'll mention a couple of paid tools as well that I find is very popular amongst folks interested in early retirement, or financial independence, just for your benefit. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first tool I'm going to mention is My Social Security, which everyone really should go to the Social Security Administration website and sign up for an account if you haven't already, and then use that site at least once a year to log on and check and verify that your W-2 earnings made its way into the records from the previous year. And it also in there, it has a handy dandy calculator which can show you what your potential future Social Security pay would look like. And it generally makes an assumption that how much ever you earned in the previous year will continue on until either your full retirement age, early retirement, or if you wait until age 70. So that's a really good tool to get an idea of what your Social Security could look like. And don't be shy about going in there and customizing it. If you know a particular year that you would like to retire or stop working, you could go ahead and make some adjustments on that calculator. But those numbers are good to have, especially when you're trying to understand what your retirement situation will look like in the future and how much reliable guaranteed income you can rely upon in any future retirement plan that you may be working on if you're a DIYer, like most of us are. So I encourage you to go to My Social Security and log on and check out that information. The next site is called OpenSocialSecurity.com, and I'll leave a link to all these sites in the notes. And this is a really interesting site. With it, you can go ahead and say if you're married or have a partner and they look up their Social Security information, you can go in there and enter some information, your age and your Social Security amount that you would expect under different situations, full retirement age, retiring early or late. And it will do a bunch of complex calculations and give you optimum time to start claiming Social Security if you want to maximize your lifetime, your overall lifetime amount that you would receive. So it might not be, the ideal time that you would like to select. And of course, it's not going to be familiar with your financial situation. Some of us just need to start accepting Social Security as soon as it's available to us. And others of us perhaps have enough investments and other assets available where we don't need to claim Social Security till later on. So everybody's situation is a little bit different, but it's a great tool for just looking not at your particular situation perhaps, but just at the real basic information of if you're a male or a female and your date of birth and your full retirement amount. And it trying to understand, given longevity, what would be the optimum Social Security claiming strategy for you if you're single, or you and your spouse if you're married. So that would be a good tool to check out as well. The next tool is called Portfolio Visualizer, and it's just a great way to go in and you can either look up individual stocks or ETFs or mutual funds and see how they performed historically, or you could just look generically at asset classes such as, large cap stocks versus mid or small cap stocks, or international stocks, or all manners, all types, varieties, and manners of fixed income whether it be corporate bonds or US Treasuries, foreign fixed income, just a whole bunch of different asset classes. And you could look at different mixture of those asset classes and see how they performed over time. And that's useful as you think through what your own investments look like, what your own portfolio looks like, as far as what kind of returns that you would like to see or really need to have, and also think about what type of volatility that you could expect with those type of returns, and how to diversify appropriately. So that's a great tool. For looking at specific stocks or equities, you can only go back 10 years for the free version, which is, I find, useful enough. But for different asset classes, you can go much further back. So that's definitely a tool worth checking out. The next tool I'm going to mention is called Empower. And this used to be known as Personal Capital, but they provide a free dashboard where you could link it up to all your investment accounts and savings and credit cards and whatnot. And it'll just give you a nice overall holistic picture of your financial situation. And I find it's a great way to track my net worth and see over time how I'm doing as far as of course, you can look at cash or individual investments. You can look at your expenses. So a lot of useful things. They have an app that you can use on a mobile device, but also a website. And the website provides a little bit more in the way of tools. There's actually a little bit of budgeting functionality I've never really fiddled with, but also a retirement planner where it can do a little bit of guesswork and try to simulate using Monte Carlo and try to project what your future retirement investments and expenses could look like at different withdrawal rates. So it's just overall really useful tool. I would say one downside is once you sign up, you'll get a couple of emails saying, hey, would you like to have a free consultation? I've just ignored those. I've never responded to them, and there's never been anything more than a couple of naggy emails, which I just ignore. So I find that to be a great just picture to get just an overall view of my financial situation. And of course, there might be some other handy tools along the way that you might find useful. So it's definitely worth checking out. The next tool I'm going to mention actually is not a free tool. I use a budgeting tool called YNAB, which is an acronym that stands for You Need a Budget. You Need a Budget, YNAB. And it costs, I don't recall exactly, but I guess right around maybe a little under $100 a year. And I chose that tool because I had tried to track my expenses myself using spreadsheets. And of course, this is after being a long-time Mint.com user, and then they discontinued that service. And so I kind of flew blind for a while, and then I really wanted something where I could keep really good track of my expenses since I entered retirement. And it is a good tool. There is a bit of a learning curve, but it's well worthwhile. But my encouragement for you is find a budgeting tool that works well for you and use it so that you can be familiar and have a good understanding of your expenses, which becomes super important as you're considering early retirement, or just financial independence. You need to understand what your expenses are month to month and throughout the year. So find a tool that works for you. Certainly a lot of people find ways of tracking that. And if you want to use a spreadsheet, go for it. But for me, I wanted something that would just kind of suck in all my expenses from my accounts and credit card and help me provide categories and just give me charts and graphs where I could follow along throughout the year. And it works well for me. So find a budgeting tool that works well for you. And the one that works for you is one that you will use. So good luck with that. The next couple of tools I'm going to mention is specifically to help you project out what your retirement finances would look like. And this generally has to do with, okay, you have your fixed income, you have inflation you need to think about, you need your expenses, and try to put that together and try to figure out, okay, if I have this amount of money and I withdraw this amount, will my money last? What are possible scenarios over, generally a long time horizon, right? So we're talking 20, 30, maybe even 40 years if you retire early. So a few tools that I really enjoy that are free. One is called Honest Math, and it's a real simple, straightforward site that you create an account, you log on, and then it'll ask you to fill out information about your age, your Social Security, when you want to claim, how much you have in investments, what is your withdrawal rate that you would like to withdraw, and it'll do some projections using Monte Carlo simulation. It's just a statistical analysis that can give you a range of possible futures. Kind of simulate, different market conditions and give you kind of a guess of what the future could look like. So I would encourage you to play around with that tool, and it might help give you a sense of what your retirement could look like. And it's a real cheap, easy, free way to do so. The next tool I'm going to mention is called FIREcalc. And this is from the FIRE community, right? Financial independence, early retirement, retire early community, FIRE, retirement, early retirement. And it's just, again, another tool where you can type in information, all the type information I just mentioned that you've been collecting about what your retirement accounts look like investment-wise, and the mix, and how much you want to spend, and what your Social Security looks like. And it can also provide some projections, with different withdrawal rates, and help give you a sense or help build you some confidence up of how much you think you would be able to spend, or if you have a specific requirement as far as your withdrawal rate, do you have enough in investments to support that over a long period of time? Great little tool. Highly suggest that you spend some time with it. It's deceivingly, it looks simple, but there are actually, there are a couple different tabs, and you can just enter just a few numbers and look at it, or you can start really fleshing it out with some more information and get a lot more detailed to your specific situation. So I encourage you to spend some time with it and play with it a little bit and see if it doesn't help give you some increased confidence as you think through and consider what retirement might look like for you. Okay, next tool is called FICalc. And again, this is also from the financial independent retire early community. It's really handy in being able to learn about different withdrawal strategies. And so I find it to be a really good tool. And also it's going to give you a historical perspective. So you can go in and say, I've got, my portfolio mix I want to look at is 60% stocks, 40% equities, or whatever your mix is. I want to look at this over a 30-year period, and I want to assume I withdraw this amount. And it also gives you an explanation about the different withdrawal strategies. So it'll give you a little bit of education if you're not familiar with the different withdrawal strategies. So it'll explain that, and then when it runs it, it gives you this historical perspective where over the history of at least of the U.S. stock market, what percentage of time would you have had enough money, and what percentage of time would you have failed to have enough money over that period. So it's really kind of cool. You can go down below and expand it and take a look and see what specific, periods in history that you would have run out of money versus not. So it's a good tool to look at specifically just to learn about different withdrawal strategies and trade-offs that come along with those withdrawal strategies. So check it out. Okay, this is the last one. Thanks for hanging with me if you're still watching. This last tool is also a paid tool that is very commonly used amongst folks in early retirement. It used to be called New Retirement, but they changed their name to Boldin. I don't know why, but it's a really nice tool. It's probably the most comprehensive that I've seen made available to individuals, not financial planners, but individuals. It still has some limitations. The cost is a little over $100 a year, and I do know that they're going to be doing a price increase here pretty soon. I think it's July 15th. It's going to have a slight bump. So, but you'll find that a lot of retirees, early retirement folks, endorse this tool and provide it a link where they get a little bit of a commission. I don't have one of those. I played with the tool, and they also have like a 15-day trial of the full version. They have a free version that's not super useful, but you could log in and just use the free version to get familiar with the tool and enter some of your information, and then pull the trigger on a trial for that, fully featured version that costs money, and play with it, and then see it, if you think it's worth it to go ahead and pay for it for a year or not. I was really on the fence. It provides some good information, but I don't know if it was worth me spending money on it for a whole year or not. But, it could be worth checking out. And for a lot of people, they find it very useful because it can run projections, but it also can give you an idea of what your tax situation might look like in the future, where you have pretty high required minimum distributions later on in life, say when you get to be 73, 75, depending on your age, and you're forced to take money out. In some cases, if people have a lot of retirement investments, that could start pushing them into a much higher tax bracket. So one way to negate that would be to do Roth conversions early on in your retirement to kind of minimize that. So it can model that out for you and kind of show you what the possible futures could look like under different conditions, as far as how much money you withdraw and what your investments look like over time. So it's an interesting tool. It'd be worth checking out and spending some time on, just to see if you like it, and if it provides value to you. It might or it might not. So there you have it. Those are the tools that I've been using, and I find a lot of folks who are planning on retiring early, or just planning for retirement, or wanting to live a life of financial freedom find useful. So I want to pass those along to you. I hope you enjoyed this video. By the way, my name is Walter, and this channel is all about giving you a perspective of early retirement, the ups and downs and the challenges that come along with it. So if you enjoyed this content, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leave a comment. It helps get the message out to others like you that are interested in this topic. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye now.